administration from the WCPP. Good morning to the Honourable Minister, Tertia Simmers, the Minister of Infrastructure, and to the department. And I welcome you to the infrastructure meeting today, the 8th of December, where we will be deliberating on vote 10 with regards to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill. And that is on page 221 to page 272. Before we start, I would just like to do attendance of the members that is present from this committee. So I will be saying your name, and if you can just then indicate your presence. Member Bryant.
Present.
Thank you very much. Member Van Wyk.
Good morning, Chair. I'm present.
Thank you very much. Member Mbombo.
Present.
Thank you. Member Lacker.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Member Petrus.
Good morning, Chair and colleagues. Present.
Good morning. Member Heron.
Good morning, present.
Thank you very much. Minister Simmers, if I can maybe at this point hand over to you just to introduce yourself and the department, please.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Tertia Simmers, Provincial Minister of Infrastructure, and I hand over to the HOD.
Good morning, Chantal Smith, Head of Department for Infrastructure.
Good morning, Shafida Andrews, Acting CFO for the Department of Infrastructure.
Good morning, Pauline van der Merwe, Acting DDG, Strategy Planning and Coordination.
Good morning, Renai Cook, Acting DDG, Provincial Public Works.
Morning, members. Michael Hendrickse, Acting DDG, Roads.
Good morning, members. Mujahid Solomons, Acting Director, Management Accounting.
Good morning, members. Melanie Hofmeyer, Specialist Engineer in the Office of the HOD.
Good morning, Labika Skierman, DDG for Human Settlements.
Is that the team? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister. I was just about to ask. Then I would just like to note I didn't receive any apologies. Procedural Officer, have you received any apologies for this meeting?
No, I haven't, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We can then start with the agenda points on the meeting. That is the deliberation on vote 10 for infrastructure, the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustment Budgets Appropriation Bill. And as previously mentioned, that is page 221 to page 272. Minister, I don't know if you or the team will flight any of the presentations, and I will then be handing over to you and the HOD for introductory remarks, and you can then go directly into the presentation should you so wish.
No, thank you, Chair. Indeed, I will make some opening remarks from the HOD, and then afterwards we have provided you, I think, with a very eloquent two-page summary of the adjustment, but that will be done by the HOD and the team. From our side, Honourable Chair and members of the Standing Committee of Infrastructure, Minister Baartman tabled the adjustment budget, but also the budget policy statement. She clearly indicated that the adjustments is the first step of how we intend to scale for growth. In the case of infrastructure, it's scaling that growth as we seek to shape the Western Cape of the future together. And also that basically the adjustment budget for our department will also, as she eloquently put it, provide the scaffolding that will be required from a through departmental lens to increase our momentum, because ultimately this adjustment also lays the foundation for what will be budget 2026 Now, the adjustment estimates focuses on 4 key pillars, which will pull itself through also into the new budget, which will be tabled next year. Firstly, through this adjustment budget, we seek to create fiscal sustainability across our programs. We seek to address in-year fiscal risks. We seek to maintain our fiscal discipline, and given that we are a department where more than 80% of our budget actually goes through the supply chain processes, that fiscal discipline does play a massive role for us. But it's also to prepare our 2026 budget cycle in preparation for that. And this is the scaffolding, this is the foundation of within a year within which we have accomplished so much. And we will seek to continue with that momentum as we seek to accelerate to contribute to the scaling of growth in our province. Actually.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. From my side, I want to thank yourself, Chair, and the members for providing us the opportunity to engage. Of course, the team has prepared the slides just so that what you have in the book is made easier and you can see it at a cursory glance. The team will take you through it. Thereafter, Chair, we are ready for questions. So I'm just going to hand over to Mujahid to take you through the presentation, if that's okay. Can we proceed, Chair?
Yes, 100%. Thank you very much, actually.
Thank you very much. Please indicate if you can see the presentation.
Cannot on my side see anything yet. Procedural officer, I saw your hand was raised quickly.
I just wanted to say we can't see the infographic page.
Yes, that is it. Is it in presentation mode?
Correct, yes.
Thank you very much, Mujahid.
Good morning. Thank you, HOD. Good morning, Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present the adjustments budget for the Department of Infrastructure for the 25-26 financial year. We'll start off around the overview. So the department had a main budget allocation of 9.828 billion, and this is now increased to 10.928 billion, reflecting an adjustment of 1.1 billion rand. So this just indicates the additional pressures, the disaster recovery needs and strategic priorities that's aligned with the provincial objectives. So I'll take you through the various sections of the infographic. So we start off with the additional funding. We received a total of 193.7 million rand. 79.7 million rand was received as additional disaster funding, and this was received through the PRMG, or the Provincial Roads Maintenance Grant. The department received an additional 114 million rand for our roads branch, and this related to spending pressures. Then moving over to section 31.2Es, or funding from other votes, which the department receives money from. We start off with 4 million rand. That was additional funding that was received from the Department of the Premier, and that was for the phase 2 of the reconfiguration of the lecture halls at the Provincial Training Institute. Then we have received 7.130 million. That was from the Department of Health and Wellness, and that was for the replacement of the Emergency Medical Services, or EMS head office. The department also received 4.946 million from the Department of Health and Wellness, and this was for the operational costs related to the Brackengate Transitional Care Facility. The department also received a further 815,000 rand, also from the Department of Health and Wellness, and this was for municipal services of student accommodation at the Southern Cape Karoo Nursing Campus. Moving to the bottom left, part of our rollovers, the department received a total of 557.542 million, and this was the disaster funding which was rolled over from the 24-25 financial year, and this related to repairs to flood damaged roads that occurred between December 2023 and July 2024. Of this amount, 374,545 42,000 relates to provincial roads, and 183 million relates to the reconstruction and rehabilitation of infrastructure. And this is managed by Cape Nature at the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. We also rolled over 1.861 million rand, and this was for funding for project preparation facility projects. Also 4.4 million rand, this was for facility condition assessments of our provincial assets. We also rolled over 12.19 million, and this was capital transfers specifically relating to the Matsikama and Kloof municipalities for construction works. There was also an amount of 1.217 million for solar geysers at the Vredebes housing project in the Witzenberg municipality. Then we move over to the realignment. So the realignment is basically funds that we shifted or surrendered from the 2025-26 financial year and moved it over into the 26-27 financial year, which is the next financial year. So we start off with 4.281 million. This was a surrender of fund to the Provincial Revenue Fund for the construction of the provincial archives relating to Vote 13, for the Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport. The following items are realignments from the 25-26 to the 26-27 financial year. So 5.776 million was realigned. This relates to earmarked funding that is part of our energy initiatives and specifically for the municipal independent power producer procurement in Stellenbosch. 1.287 million was realigned, and this was for funding for the construction of the Elsenburg Vineyard bulk irrigation for Vote 10, which is the Department of, Vote 11, which was for the Department of Agriculture. 15 million rand was realigned, which is also earmarked funding, and this relates to the construction of the child and youth care centers. 23.5 million rand was realigned, also earmarked funding, but this relates to infrastructure maintenance of the child and youth care centers. Moving over to revenue retention, Chair. This is monies that have been retained from the 24-25 financial year into the 25-26, the current financial year. 109.689 million. This was for funding towards the acceleration of housing delivery in our human settlements branch. 11.132 million relates to facility condition assessments of our provincially owned buildings, and 3.68 million for the acquisition of construction equipment, or what we call our yellow fleet in our roads branch. We also requested revenue as part of our own in-year revenue of 25-26 financial year, an amount of 15.962 million rand, and this was for road maintenance and capital works, construction equipment, i.e. our yellow fleet, which was funded from this increased own revenue. So moving over to the next slide, Chair. Can you please confirm that you can see it?
Yes, we can see the new slide. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll start off on the left-hand side with the financing. This totals an amount of 335 million rand. And I'll just take you through the funding of the sources of funding, predominantly from the asset finance reserve. So we start off on the left with 77.378 million for the acceleration of housing delivery, and this was funded from our asset finance reserve, particularly human settlements. 74 million rand was for the Western Cape Infrastructure Framework 2050, digital infrastructure transformation, i.e. our eMerge system, which is funded from the property acquisitions reserve. Then we have 17.878 million. This was for energy performance certificates, funded from the property acquisitions reserve. 18.639 million. This was to address the shortfall in our project preparation facilities or economic hub, which was funded from the asset finance reserve, particularly for public works infrastructure. Then we have 29.430 million for the facility condition assessments for our next IAMA cycle and the MTF period, funded from the property acquisition reserve. Then we have these next two amounts are funded from the Provincial Revenue Fund. We have 1,077,000 for retention costs for the solar PV project at the Department of Agriculture from the Provincial Revenue Fund, and 114 million rand to provide for spending pressures within transport infrastructure branch. This is also funded from the Provincial Revenue Fund. I spoke about this in the previous slide, Chair. And then lastly, 3.563 million. This was for acquisitions of property for the Department of Education, funded also from the Property Acquisitions Reserve. Then moving over to our reprioritization, this is where we've moved funds between the various programs in order to defray any over expenditure. In program 1, which is our administration program, we have 393,000, and this was for upskilling of salary levels 1 to 4, our handyman training as part of our professional development program. We also had 2 million allocated for audit fees, 2.5 million for our bursary program, and 3.045 million for the Riverlands emergency response, and 1.328 million rand for leave gratuity. In program 2, public works infrastructure, we had 1.3 million rand for green building training. We had 6.876 million rand allocated for solar projects, 4.2 million rand for the newly implemented City of Cape Town citywide cleaning tariff, which was introduced, 3.967 million rand for security of our provincial assets, and then 2.507 million rand for leave gratuity. In program 4, which is our human settlements program, we had allocated 6 million rand for rates and taxes, 6.86 million rand for municipal services, 2.3 million rand for training, and 1.404 million rand for leave gratuity. In program 5, our community-based programs, we had an allocation of 687,000 rand for skills development and 390,000 rand for leave gratuity. Chair, in conclusion, these adjustments enable the department to respond to urgent infrastructure needs, strengthen resilience, and advance strategic priorities. We remain committed to transparency and accountability in implementing these changes. I do welcome any questions or comments from the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. That's it from the department.
Thank you very much, HOD, and for the department. Firstly, the slides, I think it really gives a nice overview of what is happening in which, in which of the different sections of this department. I am very excited with the adjustment bill, with a 1.1 billion increase. I think it really speaks to the needs within the province. So I am, from my side, very excited to hear how, to see and hear how this is being implemented by the department. Members, we will have 3 rounds of questions. So by the raise of hands, I am going to ask if there is any questions, and then we can start with the deliberation. On my side, it is Member Lacker, followed by Member Brett Heron. So Member Lacker, you can start us off.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everybody. Chair, my first question is on page 2223. On program 3 under transport infrastructure. Basically on the rollover. Page 223 under the details on the adjustment to the estimates of the provincial expenditure. There's a mention of 374 million rollover from the 2024-2025 financial year for the Provincial Roads Maintenance Grant. It goes further to say that these funds are earmarked for infrastructure reconstruction and rehabilitation resulting from the disasters in December 2023 up until end July 2024. Now, I would like to ask the department to provide a clear update on the progress of these projects and also which areas have been rehabilitated so far and when will this project be completed. Secondly, Chair, the department in April announced that the road agency function of district municipalities will be centralized within the department under a new provincial roads delivery model. Now, I would like to understand, Chair, with regards to that, was the road agency function for district municipalities previously funded through the PRMG? If so, Chair, how will district municipalities continue to operate without these funds? And also, what measures are in place to prevent the collapse of district municipalities and job losses, particularly given that historically a large portion of district budgets came from this fund? And lastly, on that same question, can the department explain how this centralized model will function in practice while ensuring that service delivery, local economies and employment opportunities are not negatively affected? And maybe my last question on page 223 also. With regards to the Friede Base project, can the department provide an update on the progress made towards the completion of the project? Would understand, Chair, that there was a rollover from the 2024 to 2025 financial year to provide for solar geysers in that specific project. So can we get an update progress? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Lacker. Member Heron, you can start with your question.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the department for the summary of the budget. I'm on page 228 of the adjustment budget, or the blue book. And I'm on program 4, so towards the bottom of page 228. The 77 million rand allocated to human settlements from the Asset Finance Reserve Human Settlements. My first question is, what is the source of the funding that goes into the Asset Finance Reserve for Human Settlements? Where does that funding come from to get into that Asset Finance Reserve Fund? I go over to page 229. It's also the same description for 228. The funding allocated to Human Settlements Program 4 on page 228 and 229 talks about acceleration of housing delivery. So what does that mean? Does that mean the target set for housing delivery in this financial year has been increased in terms of numbers? What do we mean by acceleration of housing delivery? Then, sorry, similarly with the source of the funding, the revenue retention that funds the 109 million rand, what is the source of that revenue retention for human settlements? Is it the Human Settlements Development Grant? And so is this similar to a rollover, or what is revenue? What is the difference between revenue retention and the rollover of funds? Then I'm going to page 241. Again, under human settlements, there's an allocation of a total additional appropriation of 52 million rand, and it says incremental interventions. So what is incremental interventions? What are we actually talking about there? And then I just have one question about one of the projects that are actually further into the document. On page 261, there's the Pen Hill Velmut Informal Settlement Upgrade Partnership Grant Fund. That's the source of the funding, or the project number. It's towards the bottom of the page on page 261. It says the total project cost is 10 million. The main appropriation was 6 million, and then we've allocated an additional 50,930,000, if I read this correctly. So how does a project that had a total project cost of 10 million wind up having a adjusted appropriation of 56.9 million? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Heron. That is then the first round of questions. Minister Simmers, over to you and the department. I'm not sure if you have any comments first, and who's gonna lead the answers.
Thank you, Charlie. Very brief, because and the nature of your questions are actually administrative. Given that we have engaged the Standing Committee on the new roads delivery model and so forth, I'll just ask that actually the team quite expand on that, because again, like I said, this adjustment is scaffolding for what we will be doing in 2026. But do thank you for your questions of clarity. It will assist the Standing Committee as well when we enter the new year. Actually.
Thank you, Minister. So the first question around the 374 million rollover for PRMG and the progress, I will ask Mike to just give an input on that. Where are those projects and when they will be completed? Then I will deal with the roads delivery model. Maybe I should first deal with that and then provide Michael the opportunity to then come in with the disaster funding and where we are with that. So as far as the new roads delivery model is concerned, the question was the roads agency previously funded by the PRMG? The answer is no. The PRMG is a conditional grant that's issued by the National Department of Transport, and that particularly is for provincial road maintenance. So no, the roads function at the DMs was not previously funded by the PRMG. The second question is, how will the districts survive? Basically, without the funding, they don't survive without PRMG funding because it was never funded by the PRMG. But if the question is how they will survive from not receiving funding from the department, then the answer is really simple. The municipal financial models and its sustainability is a national treasury function. It is not a DOI function. In this context, the district municipalities provided a service to the department, and the department funded that entire service and gave them a funding allocation that was a management fee attached to them performing the function on behalf of the department. The other question related to how will this function in practice pertaining to job losses? There will be no job losses. Everybody that performed a roads function will be taken over by the Department of Infrastructure. So in practice, the only thing that changes then is the reporting line of the staff. Where they previously reported to the districts, we've always paid for them. And we've always funded both the operations and their salary and provided all the resources with which they did the work. It will remain the same. It is the reporting line that changes in effect. Then the issue about the Vrede Best project, the completion. So that money was money that was given from our asset finance reserve. And the only portion of it that was rolled over was about a 1.2 million. And so that is already completed. There's about 50 completed in this year. And so 60 will be completed next year as far as Vrede Best is concerned. Then the question by Member Heron around the 77 million, the source of the funding for AFR, and this is the source for all AFR. Anything that we have in the asset finance reserves is money that we have collected in one or other format. So let me explain. In the Roads Asset Finance Reserve, the source of the money would be motor vehicle levies, that license fees that is paid, and the purpose of that is the maintenance and the rehabilitation of our roads. So that would be the Roads Asset Finance Reserve. The Human Settlements Asset Finance Reserves work in the same way. That would be the houses that we sell from our first home finance program. So the revenue that we get from that goes into the asset finance reserve, and it is then used as per what the minister indicates, when we either help or assist municipalities in them completing projects where we are not sure whether they would get money from the HSDG or the ISUPG, then we can step in and provide them with the money, and they also don't have to wait for the next year. So that's what we call acceleration. We discuss this with the municipality. We look at their ability to be able to spend that money. If it unlocks or unblocks a project so that we have faster delivery on that project as opposed to waiting for the next round of the business plan to national human settlements, we fund that from the asset finance reserve. So in line with this, where the money comes from, if it comes from a human settlements program, then we plow it back into human settlements. Then the difference between revenue retention and rollover. So a rollover basically means where you've been allocated money in a particular financial year. Depending on the time of the year, if you've managed to commit that funding, then you are eligible in terms of the rules, in terms of the law, to basically apply to the provincial treasury or via the provincial treasury to the national treasury, depending on where the funding comes from, for a rollover into the next financial year. In other words, the money isn't lost. The money is used for exactly the same purpose, and you motivate why you were not able to spend it, but that it's committed already. There's a contract in place, and you will be spending that money in the next financial year. By way of an example, when we had the floods, the National Department of the National Disaster Management indicated they will give us an allocation, but they will determine which roads they have verified for us to be able to complete those roads. So before we get the list of the roads, we are not able to touch it, and we were not able to use it on all of the roads that was affected by the floods. In other words, only those that they indicate. They only came back, so we got the money in the adjustments estimate, which is this time of the year, the previous year. They only came back with a list towards the end of January. The end of January is far too late for any contractor to set up site. If they set up site, they will only set up site by the end of February, because they must still give us guarantees, which means the first invoice will only be raised in March. We only pay contractors for actual work done, which means progress payments. If there's no progress, there won't be any payments. That's why we asked for a rollover from a timing point of view of the disaster funding. Then the revenue retention, like I've just explained, revenue retention is where we do our own revenue, when we collect own revenue through one or other source, either your motor vehicle levies, or if we sell a building, or if we sell houses. Then that money is retained for the department, depending on the nature of that thing. If it's selling of houses, then it goes into the Human Settlements AFR. If we're selling buildings, it goes into the Public Works AFR. And if we collect money for motor vehicle licenses, it goes into the Roads AFR. And it has to be spent for that particular purpose, or the acceleration of some work in those areas. That's basically the difference, and that's why it's called revenue retention. You are then able to either increase your spending or ask for revenue retention in the next year with the budget, during the budget process. Then Peniel, how does a project that was budgeted for 10 million suddenly has such a big adjustments? This is also really simple. What happened in the case of Peniel? Peniel was invaded. We went to court. We didn't know what the outcome of the judgment would be. We won the case, and therefore we are starting with work immediately. And that's why the adjustment is there. It enables us to go to work immediately so that we don't have a situation where the people that previously invaded is able to withhold us from proceeding with this process. At the other end of the stick, there sits people that's been on that waiting list for years, and we want to make sure that we are able to accelerate the delivery. We have the courts backing now, and therefore we want to start building. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm just going to hand over to Michael that can give us a sense of where we are with the expenditure of the flood damage money.
Maleka, you asked about progress with regards to the flood damage projects. HOD made reference to a list of verified roads that were submitted through DMC. Those roads were packaged into 13 contracts, 12 of which have been awarded and are currently in stage 5, so in the implementation stage. There is only one which still needs to be awarded and will be awarded in the next month or two. That outstanding contract is repairs to Montague Pass in Region 2.
Thank you very much. And then there was a final question by Member Heron about incremental interventions and what that means. Mujahid will respond to that question.
Thank you, HOD. Member Aaron, so you were referring to a question on page 241. So just to provide some context, when Human Settlements was a department, they had a certain structure with the sub-programs. And when they became part of Department of Infrastructure, then they became a branch, in other words, a separate program. So the initial sub-programs then became sub-programs. So the breakdown on page 241 just indicates what the sub-programs are in Human Settlements, as well as the sub-programs. So incremental interventions is actually a sub-program. If you look at the numbering, you'll see it's under sub-program 4.3, which we call Human Settlements Development. And incremental interventions is a sub-program of that particular sub-program. So that refers to the money that was allocated, the additional funding, which we refer to the 78 million and the 103 million. And that relates to all the funding for projects that we allocate funding for, particularly top structures. That refers to the 52 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, HOD and the department for the thorough answering of the questions. Members, again, over to you for any follow-ups or any new questions for round 2. I see Member Heron's hand is up. Is there any other members that would like to? Member Heron and then Member Peters. Member Heron, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the HOD for the explanation. I'm not sure that I understood the distinction between revenue retention, the way that HOD described it, and the source of the funds for asset finance reserve human settlements. For asset finance reserve human settlements, the HOD said this was when the department sells houses for the first-time owners subsidy. And revenue retention, I think she said that it was the same thing. Maybe I didn't hear correctly. But so if I can just get that distinction again, the difference between the source of the funds that goes into asset finance reserve and then what is revenue retention. Then just on that, the selling of first-time homeowner properties, if I understood the source of the funds for asset finance reserve correctly, the department contracts a developer to develop housing that is available for the first-time owners, homeowner subsidy. How does the department end up with the sales price in its asset finance reserve if it has to pay for the actual building of those houses? I mean, is there a profit, or how is it that funding ends up in the asset finance reserve when we sell houses, when those houses must surely be funded by what, HSDG? So do we fund it with HSDG, but we keep the sales price? Can I just get clarity on that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Petrus, over to you. And then I see Member Lacker also has her hand up. So we'll then first Member Petrus, followed by Member Lacker.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I want to know if there's a decrease in allocation for maintenance, especially schools and education maintenance, and if it is confirmed that it is the case, what is the reasons for that?
Thank you very much, Member Petrus. Member Lacker.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just one quick follow-up, and then I would move to a new question. With regards to the Vredebes project, I just want to check, Chair, has there been any progress with regards to the issue of Miss Cynthia Bless? I'm sure the MEC would remember that case. Is there any progress on that? And whether has she been, does she currently have a home as part of the issues that were raised previously? Then moving to a new question, Chairperson, in terms of sub-program 1.3 on corporate support, page 2 to 4, the 3.8 million allocation, how much of that would be used for emergency response cost in Riverlands? And can also we get details of the assistance being provided to the community, particularly for the vulnerable families who lost everything? And on page 2 to 5, under land and subsoil assets, the reallocation of expropriation costs to projects. What are these expropriation costs to the projects? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Lacker. Minister Simmers, through you to the department.
Thank you, Chair. Indeed, again, some very insightful questions, but also it does bode well because we do seek to empower the Standing Committee members in the oversight. In terms of the asset finance reserve of the AFR, and I'll just touch on the human settlements part, given that the Honourable Heron did touch on it, and I'll take a few steps back when it used to be called the Department of Human Settlements, who over a number of years invested some of their own funding into unlocking, for instance, bulks in certain projects, or when they also upfront invested in certain processes within certain developments, but over a number of years. Now, previously, before the AFR, all that funds actually went through to the Provincial Treasury. Just prior to COVID-19, I then asked, but how can it be that we have all this projects which we've invested in that are actually now coming on live, that are being developed, more so on affordable housing? Because I also shifted the focus to affordable housing, and I said, given that there is not adequate focus by the National Department of Human Settlements, surely there must be a funding mechanism within the province which I can utilize to expand on the vision that I had and the Western Cape government has in terms of accelerating the focus on affordable housing, given that our data did indicate there needs to be a focus not just on the BNG program, but on the affordable housing component. So we then drafted the conceptual document for what's called what used to be called the Human Settlements Asset Finance Reserve. And all the funding which we then got, again, remember, infrastructure, just like human settlements, is a long-term game, which means that the money which was invested over a number of years prior to 2019 came online. What used to be called FLISP units went to market, they sold, and we actually got basically our funding back. Now, there is a continuum of these projects which we invested in prior to 2019, and even in my term as the Minister of Human Settlements. So this is not profit, it is actually just the money we're getting back, which we invested in these programs. I'll hand over to the biggest Skierman just to explain, because obviously, you know, we have been accelerating the focus of the human settlements component part, but once we became the Department of Infrastructure, it's now one holistic AFR fund, obviously with substracts, which we then utilize as we so collectively agree upon. But I just to give you clarity on the human settlements part, because I do not want the message to go out that the provincial government is profiteering from human settlements, which indeed we are not. This is our return on investment in the failure of the National Department of Human Settlements to actually give us sufficient funding to unlock affordable housing over a number of years.
Thank you, Minister. Just to add on to that, we in this province decided almost 2 financial years ago that in terms of energy, we would build our units with the solar geysers. We were the only province that did that. Outside of what National offered was a battery package that would be given for free. We thought that it was not sustainable and there would be a lot of wastage in the system to do that. So for the last 2 years, we have every new unit that we build a solar geyser with, and that those solar geysers are financed out of the Asset Reserve Fund for Human Settlements. At the same time, as the Minister said, we also assist in terms of bulbs and electrical installations, and then there are arrangements with the municipalities in terms of how that would get financed back, especially in terms of the Eskom's contribution. So if you look at the Asset Reserve Fund for the current financial year, there's a mixture of solar geysers, there's a bulk electric, there's bulk civils funding that we do so that we can unblock for when it lands from the grant funding and we build the units, the tops, and the base money comes from the Asset Reserve Fund that is then unlocking what we spend from the grant funding to build the tops. Thank you.
Respond to the funding subsidies versus the first home finance.
The first home
sales versus
the first home finance sales that would come back into the Asset Reserve Fund, and a portion of the Asset Reserve Fund is also rental stock contribution, which is used in terms of maintenance. So there's no profiteering against the Asset Reserve Fund.
Thank you. Then, as far as the decrease in the maintenance of schools are concerned, the adjustments in terms of schools is in the education vote. We didn't get any adjustments for schools from education, so I can't respond to that. Then the 3.8 million, how much of that is spent? 3.045 million for Riverlands emergency assistance. Everything will be spent against that. The type of emergency assistance that we provided depends now. The first assistance that we provided was fresh water for a certain period of time. We gave fresh water because there was no potable water for the people who displaced at the point in time. We also appointed a professional consultant, the purpose of which was to do an investigation of the cause of the collapse of the dams, and then with recommendations, as well as, of course, the extent of the damage suffered by the Riverlands community. And the whole point of that was so that when claims against the state are being processed, we understand who's responsible and what is the quantum of damages. The municipality at the time didn't have any of that funding. That's why the Department of Infrastructure, from that point of view, assisted. We also assisted in terms of land that was needed from National Public Works. We engaged National Public Works on that, but that was not for any money spent from us to them. Then as far as Cynthia Bless is concerned, I'm going to refer that again to Lapika. But before then, just the issue around subsoil assets, the land expropriation cost for roads, Mujahid.
Thank you, HOD. So Member Lekker, you had a question on page 225. So the shift that is involved refers to sub-program 3.3, and that's made up of 3 line items, 10 million, 30 million, and then the land expropriation of 63 million. So we have an allocation that we budget for any land expropriation costs. In this instance, we did not use the full allocation, and we redirected those funding of 63 million, and you'll see to the right side of the shift, the total of the left side was reallocated to 2 sub-programs under program 3, which is our roads branch. For 3.4, which is a sub-program for construction, there were 2 line items, of which the biggest one being buildings and other fixed structures. That was 71 million. And then also under sub-program 3.5, which is our maintenance sub-program, under program 3, the bulk of that goes to goods and services for contractor maintenance of 25 million. So essentially, we realign where we have not spent funds, and we reallocate it to the areas where we require funding, Chair. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those answers. Members, we are now heading into round 3. I know we are a bit also pressed for time, but we're heading over to round 3, which will be the last round of questions. If I can ask members to raise their hands. We have member Petrus first, followed by member Lacker. Thank you very much. Member Petrus, you can go ahead.
Yes, Chair, I want to go to the challenges in relation to the budget, like the capacity and criminal activities, capacity in municipalities, and how will that challenges impact on future funding and the rollout of our projects? And do we have, as a department, any long-term strategies to mitigate their problems?
Thank you very much, Member Petrus. I can then move over to Member Lacker.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to get a rationale on funding that was not utilized on land expropriation, which was then redirected. Can we get a broader understanding as to whether the redirection of funds is something that would have been ideal enough to do that instead of utilizing it on land expropriation? Was there nothing that could have been done in terms of payment of the land so that we can be able to render services to the people? Then, Chair, the second question is on page 228 on providing, because the notes there says provide funding for facility condition assessment under public works infrastructure. There's an amount there that has been mentioned, which has to do with the funding for the facility condition assessment. Can we get exactly these facilities? What are these facilities condition? 2, what is the property acquisition reserve and how much is currently in this reserve, and under what circumstances can it be used? Lastly, on the same question, is there seems to be a perception that the Western Cape is being sold off to wealthy European buyers. And how does the department respond to such claims? Are Europeans indeed purchasing property in the province at a higher scale? And if so, how might this affect the rising cost of living for ordinary citizens of the province? Page 229, Chair. I think I've taken note that program 4 under human settlement, there's 2 amounts there that has been put for accelerating housing delivery. What are these specific projects that are being targeted, and in which municipalities? And what are the current expenditure trends of the department on 2 conditional grants, of which the 300 million that was taken from the province, given the past slow trends, that maybe we may be at the risk of losing another amount. So can we get proper input on those ones, Chair? And lastly, very last one is around the HDA chairperson, which talks to the 70, I think it's 72 million that has been allocated for human settlement, which was shifted to other expenditure items. What are the justifications of that, and what does it mean? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Lacker. That's completing the third round of questioning. Minister Simmers, I'm going to hand over to you, to the department again for the last round of questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, Chair, again, some of the members' questions were breed schotse genade, which means we will not be able to answer any. The perception that, as Member Lekker said it, or saw clarity on the allegation that the Western Cape is being sold to Europeans, again, that's a myth. It is sadly paneled by those individuals who do not understand the way government works. I'm well aware that she's referring to the high cost of living in terms of certain areas within the city of Cape Town, though. But again, this is a phenomenon which we also see across the world, not just in the city of Cape Town, where you have major influxes of individuals to a metropole or metropolis area. The same picture is seen around the world. So no, that is a myth. Then, before I hand over to the department to answer all the other questions, Honourable Chair, just the issue of Cynthia Bliss. As you are aware, Batsenberg municipality falls under Eskom area. And for a number of years, we have been confronted with the issue that we could not build further to the next phase because of Eskom. Now, we know Eskom and all of their challenges they've had. So the member will be happy to note that the construction of the next 110 houses has finally commenced. Additional capacity has been provided for, which means you can actually build 110 houses because of the intervention of the private sector, who have actually gone on solar and battery storage facilities in that municipal area, which means that easing up has ensured that there's excess energy available so that we can actually commence with the construction of the next 110 houses in the Vredebes project, of which Ms. Bess is going to be a beneficiary, noting that her son is disabled, which means that the house will also be retrofitted. But again, this is now a scenario which was outside of the departmental control because Eskom ultimately, sadly, could not provide additional capacity to that municipality. And hence, with assistance of the introduction of solar and battery storage energy by the private sector and the various big storage facilities which form the fundamental basis of the economy of Batsenberg, the energy which they have now been able to save for the system means we can actually build a house for Ms. Best so that she can build in due course, and we will sensitize Member Lekker when Ms. Best moves in. But she must just note this is an Eskom issue, not a human settlements issue, which delayed the construction of Mrs. Best's retrofit house for disabled son. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the question around Member Petrus's question about the challenges and capacity, Chair, I just need a page number so that I can locate the context under which that question is asked. Then Michael, just respond to the expropriation and the redirection of the expropriation money, and then I will take it further.
Member Lekker, expropriation for the funds that are sort of allocated towards expropriation as far as roads is concerned. Roads through the Ordinance 19 of 1976 is allowed to expropriate for road improvements at market value. Importantly, we can only expropriate for proclaimed roads. The allocation in the budget is linked to planned projects typically, and the money is paid in two scenarios, either where there's agreement, either when there's an agreement with the affected owner in respect of the valuation of the property, or when the project goes into stage 5, which is implementation stage. Now, in this current budget, for reasons beyond our control, there wasn't agreement on a particular, two particular parcels of land, which were impacted as a result of planned road improvements. And because of that, those monies were then absorbed elsewhere into the branch, where they could be used sort of more productively.
Thank you very much, Mike. Then there was a question about the provision of funding for facility condition assessments, which is 29.4 million. So as far as the facility condition assessments are concerned, GIAMA, the Government Immovable Asset Management Act, places an obligation on the custodian, which this department is, to every 5 years in a 5-year cycle perform a facility condition assessment on all of its facilities, the entire portfolio. So even the building where the members are in, we have to perform facility condition assessments. The purpose of the facility condition assessment is to have an understanding around if the building is still fit for use, if the building is still safe, the structural legitimacy of the building, whether or not people need to be vacated out of the building, but most importantly, what scheduled maintenance and emergency maintenance is supposed to be performed on the building. In a perfect world, we would have facility condition assessments and we would have a budget linked to every facility condition assessment in every building so that we can do life cycle maintenance on every building. But government doesn't have that kind of funding. And so therefore, the idea is every 5 years, we identify what is the key components that we have to replace. And that's how we decide and prioritize maintenance over that 5 years. That's what the facility condition assessments is about. And it is for every single building and every single land parcel, actually, that government owns. Then there was a question about the property acquisition reserve, how much is in it. For 26-27, there's 69.531 million in it. The conditions under which it is utilized, this is a reserve that we build from the sale of properties as well as from rentals. And the idea is that we use that money to buy properties for provincial departments in order for them to execute their service needs. We are the custodian, therefore, every department complete what we call a UMP, a user asset management plan. Every year, it is a plan that should look 10 years into the future and give us an indication of for the next 10 years, what is your need. Then we need to evaluate those, prioritize it, and understand which properties do we need to buy first for which department in order for them to be able to construct whatever building they require to perform their function. Then there was a question of the acceleration of human settlements. What projects? There's actually a list of projects. I'm going to mention 1 or 2, but it is in the B5 document attached to the budget. But we can also give the list because it will be gazetted. One of those is Swartland for the WIP project. They require funding to accelerate the WIP. It is a key need for them as far as that construction is concerned. The contractor is already on site. It's on a nearby site, so there's cost savings attached to that. So we will be doing that. There is TWK for Yesorp. There's the electrification, and this is the issue that ministers raised around Eskom. Very often when we have to, or when we're completing our buildings or our houses, then Eskom is not yet on board or they don't have the funding to do the electrification. We can't have houses standing vacant and be invaded. Therefore, we give that funding with the understanding that when the municipalities, gets the INEP funding back, they repay that money. There is money for just go up, please. We have Matsikama, that's also electrical, because again, in order for us to hand over the houses, the top structures that we've built, we want it to be electrified so that people move into houses that has electricity. So that's just to name a few of them, but there is a list and those will be gazetted once this process is finalized and goes through the normal gazetting process. There was a question by Member Leck about HDA and shifts from HDA. If you can please just give us an indication of the page number so that I can land it in terms of context. So that's for Member Petrus as well as for Member Lecker, please, Chair, so that we can respond to those questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, HOD. Member Petrus, with regards to your question, is there any specific page numbers that you refer to? Or is it a general question? And if it is, I would maybe propose that we handle it as a resolution after the department is left.
Thank you, Chair. It's a general question in relation to the budget. But I agree with you. Maybe we must make it part of the resolutions.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So we will handle that then as such. Member Lacker.
Page 226, Chair.
Page 226. I'm going to go there myself as well. HOD, I'm going to hand over to you then. It is Member Lacker is specifically making mention to page 226.
Thank you, Chair. So that money to provide HDA implementation protocol and housing subsidies, we have an agreement with the HDA in terms of which they provide certain services to the department. We handle this agreement on the basis of a service level agreement with them. And we actually get, for each project that we give them, they provide a quote. We only pay on actual services rendered. So in the adjustment, that is about 659,000 Rand that we are asking in the adjustments, reallocating in the adjustments for work in terms of that agreement that the HDA has to do for the department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister Simmers and the HOD and the department for the answering of the questions. The members, should there be more clarity needed on some of the questions, we can deal with that in the resolutions hereafter. Minister HOD, I am now going to hand over to you for any closing remarks that you might have. And you are then welcome to be excused from the meeting. So I'm going to hand over to you one last time in this meeting, just for any closing remarks that there might be.
Thank you very much, Chair. The HOD has indicated it's fine. My voice will be her voice as the final session of our session with the Standing Committee for the year. So I do, on behalf of the Ministry and the Department, Chairperson, to yourselves and each member of the Standing Committee, do want to thank you for what has been a very hectic and fast-paced year, more so in terms of our portfolio. I think the adjustments which we have engaged on clearly shows that we are preparing to further accelerate towards 2026, as about the scaffolding, as I mentioned, which we are putting in place for next year. But also to thank each and every member for your questions of clarity, your questions which you also needed some clarification on. But it ultimately shows, Honourable Chairperson, to you and the Standing Committee, that infrastructure is an environment that if we do not understand it effectively and we can't fund it efficiently, we will be confronted with a lot more complicated questions from the Standing Committee. But we are also a department and a provincial government that are very innovative. Through the AFR is a good example, where we do not seek to just complain or bemoan a lack of national funding. We seek to find resources to actually accelerate that which we believe is important for the people of the Western Cape. As together, we are busy reshaping and shaping the Western Cape of the future. So thank you very much for a very hardworking year, Chair. I wish you well on your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. And yeah, from our side as well, thank you to the department and yourself for the transparent way in which we can communicate with each other to ensure that that we use this portfolio to scale for growth, to alleviate the challenges of the residents of the Western Cape. I want to congratulate you and the department for the work that you've been doing over the past year, and we look forward to a extremely busy and productive 2026. I hope you have a nice holiday and a festive season. And yeah, so from our side as well, very much a thank you to you and the department. You are now welcome to excuse yourself from the meeting, and the members, if I can just ask you to stay behind, and we will then deal with the resolutions and the consideration of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Procedural officer, if you can just indicate when everyone from the department has indeed left the meeting.
Chair, I see Carmen is still in the meeting. That is she just left now. It's just Minister Simmons that is still in the meeting.
Well,
Okay, he is out of the meeting. That's only members left now.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, members, for the deliberation and the questions. I quickly just want to go to resolutions of from today's meeting. Shamir, I just want to confirm that you have especially the question of Member Petrus that's to be dealt with as a resolution in terms of the challenges that that municipalities are facing. So that was the only resolution that I gathered. So I think okay, Member Lacker.
No, thank you, Chair. My first resolution would be on information. That would be on the departmental protocol on the HDA. Then the second one, Chair, as far as the recommendations are concerned, is around there were two amounts that were mentioned for the implementation of is it FREDEBS, that 50% or 50 of those have been completed, and that the other 60 would be completed by next year. Can as and when this 60 is completed, can the committee be provided with an update on that? That's also part of the information as a request. Then the last one, Chair, was around the riverlands. There was mention of fresh water that was provided for. I want to check in terms of the expenditure towards that fresh water that was provided. How much of it was it water that came from municipality or from private companies? And if it's from private companies, how much was paid for by the department for such services? I'll pause there for now, Chair. I just want to check on my notes as well, but I don't want to delay the meeting so other members may raise their resolutions. Just give me 1 or 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, Member Bryant, I see your hand is up as well.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to find out, just in terms of process, are we going to be doing the vote now first or the resolutions first?
Yeah.
Just trying to work out when to.
Yeah, no, thanks, Member Bryant. Yeah, I just wanted to get the resolutions done whilst, you know, because one was still a sort of an unanswered question that we received from Member Pietro. So I just wanted to make sure that that gets dealt with. So Member Lacker, if it is in order with you, I might request that you just put the rest of the resolutions from your notes to us in writing, if that is in order with you, in order to move to the adoption or the consideration of the vote.
No problem, Chairperson, as long as the other ones that I've raised are on record. Thank you.
They are on record. No, thank you very much, Member Lacker. Members, we will then be going over to the consideration of the committee report on vote 10 in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill, and the specific vote is on page 221 through to page 272. It is at this stage where I'm going to ask the members that is in support of the vote to please just raise their hands. Okay, so we've got myself, we have Member Mbombo, Member Petrus, Member Bryant, Member Van Wyk. And I don't know if it's allowed, but I also noted that Member Hiran sent me a WhatsApp that he had to excuse him from the meeting, but he was also in support. Can I ask that it then be lowered, the hands? Just waiting on Member Mbombo to please, there we go. And I am now going over members that is not in support of the vote. If they can raise their hands, please.
Chair,
Yes, Member Lacker.
the ANC is not in support of the budget vote. And as you would know, would like to exercise our minority view, and this is grounded on the concerns that we've been raising during the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That is duly appreciated and noted as such on the document. If Ms. Jones, is this document completed? Can I read it as such currently?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So to the members, the report of the Standing Committee on Infrastructure on vote 10, infrastructure in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill, page 5 to Bill 5 of 2025, dated the 8th of December 2025 as follows. That the Standing Committee on Infrastructure reports that it's concluded its deliberations on vote 10, infrastructure in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustment Appropriation Bill 5 of 2025, refer to the committee in accordance with the Standing Rule 188 report that it supports the vote. In accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress has expressed its minority view that it does not support the vote. If I can please get a proposer and a seconder for the report as I just read. Member Van Wyk.
proposing or seconding, whoever's
Okay.
first there.
Okay, so we'll have Member Bryant proposing and Member Van Wyk seconding. So that is appreciated, and that then deals with a budget vote. We then go over on the agenda to 1.3, which is the consideration and adoption of the draft committee on the adoption 1.3.1. The consideration and adoption of the committee draft minutes of the meeting that was held on the 6th of August. Jones, if you can just open that up, there we go. And there we can see, we can just quickly browse through that. That was from Mossel Bay Municipality. Comprehensive log. Ms. Jones, can you just scroll up a little bit? Just wanted that number 8. We requested an oversight visit, so that was then handled. The committee requested that Mossel Bay detailed report, so that it looks in order for me. If I can get a proposer and a seconder for that, please. Any of the member Mbombo proposes? If I can get someone to second, please. Any of the members that were present, Member Brian?
I'll second that, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. We then go on to the following one is the consideration and the adoption of the committee draft minutes of the meeting that was held on the 16th of October 2025. If we can just flag that one. The site visits, backlog. Okay. These are the resolutions that we took in that meeting. That I report to brief it on the, yeah, these are still coming, the red tape reduction unit and backlogs that is to be addressed. Yeah, it does look in order for me. Is there any, can I ask the members to please propose and second these minutes as well?
I'm prepared to propose there. I'm proposing, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Van Wyk. Someone to second? Can I get any member to second, please? Member Mbombo, that's appreciated. We then go over to the meeting to adopt for the consideration and adoption of the committee draft minutes of the meeting that was held on the 23rd of May. This was that of PPPs and all of that. Yes. And the Green Haven Housing Project, which we then went to visit. And then the Treasury Fund, the committee, and that Mr. Jacobs have him brief the committee as well. So if I can get a proposer and a seconder for that as well.
I propose, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I get a secondment? Member Mbombo, thank you very much. We then go over to the consideration and adoption of the committee first draft quarterly report from April to June 2025. Just shows the attendance and all of that. So that is appreciated. And I still Member Johnson will be replaced by Member Van Wyk as they've been swapped. But at that stage, they were still like this. So can I get a proposer and a seconder for this, please?
I propose, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I get someone to second? Member Mbombo, thank you very much. Then the last one is the consideration and adoption of the committee's draft second quarterly report for the period July to September 2025. This includes the oversight visits that we did and all of that. And here we can see Member Van Wyk that was added to this schedule. So that is perfect. Member Bombo, I assume that is a proposal from your side or that you proposed. Can I get someone to second?
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much. That is appreciated. And that's, if I am not mistaken, procedural officer, you can just assist me here. That brings us to the end of all the official business.
We still have yes, and then we have the business plan and the tracking document that we still have to adopt.
Okay. So can you just flight those for us? This is the tracking document. So this is just the summary of all the resolutions and how we get the answers and all of that. Yes.
For the financial year, Chair?
Yes, for the financial year. So if I can ask someone to propose and second this for me as well, Member Lacker. Is that a proposal from your side?
Chair.
Yes.
A quick one. Were these sent on our emails? Because I'm trying to read through and I'm unable to do so.
Yes, member, I can flight or send you the email that was sent to your office.
Yeah, this was sent to us.
What was the date? I can go back. Because I'm particularly interested on our business plan. I can't just propose if I don't see it.
Okay.
What was the date, if I may?
I'll call it up now, member. Let me just call it up quickly before I go through all of my emails.
Is it the one on the 3rd of October?
It could be, member. I just need to make sure. I'm just looking for it. I didn't think that that would be called up now, but it was sent to everyone. I'll send you the email again, if that's okay with you.
I see the tracking on the 3rd of October.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
I've seen it, but there's no business plan attached to that one.
I've sent it more than.
It's okay.
Okay. Member Lackett, are you happy that we go over
I'm
to?
okay. I'm
Are you
okay with
okay?
the second document, Chair.
Okay,
If
perfect.
there's any issues on the business plan, I will write to you in
Perfect.
private. Thank you.
100%. So can I take you as a proposer?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much. And for those two documents, if I can just get someone to second them as well, please.
I will second. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Van
Sorry,
der Walt.
Chair, is that now proposal second for both the tracking and the business plan?
Yes, with the understanding that should there be any questions that Member Lacker might have on the business plan, that she will send it to us in writing.
Noted, Chair.
Perfect. So that is for both those documents. That then brings us to the end of the meetings for infrastructure for 2025. Members, I would really like to thank all of you for your participation, for the manner in which we conducted our oversight visits, for the way that we dealt with some of the petitions that we received throughout the year. I know this is a big department, and especially with human settlements in this department, it is a emotional department that we need to consistently ensure that we alleviate the pressures for the residents of the Western Cape. So I would really like to thank everyone for their contribution. May you have a very, very good festive season. Drive safe for those of you that will be traveling, and I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you in 2026. Then also to Ms. Jones, I really would like to thank you for all your efforts for the year to make this committee run seamlessly, for the arrangements of the oversight visits, to know that it's always refreshing to know that you're onto all the arrangements and that we never struggle, and that really is allowing us to do productive oversight. And we really appreciate your efforts. So to you too, I hope you have a lovely holiday and festive period. And with that, I am then adjourning this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.